Section 7. This section begins with God telling us to be mindful when we make oaths and promises, as deliberately breaking them is sinful and has a financial penalty. Then tells us the penalty we must pay and what to do if we can't afford it. Then we are taught that intoxicants, gambling, idols and drawing lots for making decisions are Satan's handiwork, and to keep away from these things for your own success. Then we are told the Kaaba, the sacred house, has been made a sanctuary of well-being for all people, and that good and evil are not equal, although you may be dazzled by the abundance of evil. So be mindful of God in order that you may be successful. God tells us that some people are upon what their forefathers practiced, even though they had no knowledge or guidance, and that you are accountable only for yourselves. It won't harm you if others choose to deviate, as long as you are rightly guided. Then we come to some fascinating verses about a future event, a conversation between God and Jesus, son of Mary, on the day of judgment. There's a long passage about what God will say to Jesus, peace be upon him, seeking his testimony, and the responses that he will give. And that brings us to the end of the chapter Al-Ma'idah, the table spread. God starts the next chapter by informing us what he created us from, and that he has appointed a time for your death and another time for our resurrection. Then if you want to know about what is the absolute triumph, then you will find it here. After that, we see a few passages regarding false gods that people used to believe in, and how they will fail them on the day of judgment. Also, we are told this worldly life is no more than play and amusement, and far better is the eternal home of the life hereafter. Then we get some repetitive verses about the previous prophets and their struggles as a consolation to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, who also went through many struggles. God then informs us of one of his attributes, that he is the all-knowing. Not even a leaf falls without his knowledge. In an interesting passage regarding sleep, do we ever wonder what happens to us when we sleep? Well, here God informs us what happens. God also informs us that we have recording angels watching over us, and also that when death comes to any of us, there are angels that take the soul back to God, never neglecting this duty. We learn about Abraham, peace be upon him, when he said to his father, "Do you take idols as gods?" And several verses about Abraham's coming to certainty about God and his faith in him. We also see the names of various prophets mentioned in this chapter. Then God says that these prophets were rightly guided, so follow their guidance, and that this Qur'an is a reminder to the whole world. Also a powerful verse about those who associated others with God. When they returned to God, leaving behind everything they had, which God provided them in the first place, that those they associated with God will be nowhere to be seen. Then we get some passages about some of the things God has created, like the sun, the moon, the plants, the rain, giving life and death, and asks, how then can you be so deluded from the truth? And God advises the believers not to insult those who they invoke besides God. And that brings us to the end of section 7.